There's a question that has puzzled many, both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Some claim that the Quran presents a contradiction so significant that it cannot be ignored. The question is this: does the Quran say that humans have free will, or does it say that everything is already predestined by Allah? On one hand, the Quran tells us that humans are responsible for their actions, that we will be judged based on our choices, and that we must strive to do good. Allah says, indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:11. This verse clearly emphasizes that we have the power to change, that our decisions matter. But then in another place the Quran states, and you do not will except that Allah wills. Indeed, Allah is ever knowing and wise. Surah Al-Insan 76:30. Here, the meaning seems different. If we cannot will something unless Allah wills it first, do we really have free will? Or is everything preordained, leaving us without real control over our destiny? For centuries, skeptics have pointed to this as a contradiction. Even some believers, when faced with hardship, wonder, am I truly responsible for my actions, or was my fate sealed before I was even born? This question isn't just theoretical. It impacts how we see life, how we understand justice, and how we make sense of the trials we face. But before jumping to conclusions, let's take a step back and explore this issue through the lens of Islamic wisdom, looking at an unforgettable story from our history, one that holds the key to resolving this so-called contradiction. This is one of the most debated questions in Islamic theology. If everything is already written by Allah, then how can we be held accountable for our choices? And if we truly have free will, then doesn't that mean Allah is not fully in control of everything? It seems like a paradox, but in reality, the Quran presents a balanced understanding that resolves this dilemma. Islam teaches that both free will and destiny exist simultaneously, without contradiction. Allah, in His infinite knowledge, already knows what choices we will make, but that does not mean He forces us to make them. Imagine a teacher who knows their students well enough to predict who will pass and who will fail an exam. Their knowledge does not cause the students to fail, their own actions do. The Prophet Muhammad explained this beautifully in a hadith when a man asked him about fate. The Prophet responded, "Act, for everyone is facilitated to that which he was created for." Sahih Muslim 26:47. This means that while Allah has written our destiny, He has also given us the ability to make choices within that destiny. We are responsible for our actions, and that's why we are rewarded for good and held accountable for evil. The Quran confirms this balance. Whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve. Surah Al-Kahf 18:29. At the same time, Allah also tells us, Allah guides whom He wills and lets go astray whom He wills. Surah Ibrahim 14:4. So how do these two ideas fit together? The answer lies in understanding that Allah's guidance is not forced upon anyone. Those who seek truth sincerely are guided, and those who reject it are left to their own choices. This balance between free will and divine decree is what gives life its meaning. Our choices matter, and yet we trust that Allah's plan is perfect. The question is, how will you use the free will that Allah has given you? Let me take you back to a powerful moment from the life of Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph of Islam, one of the strongest believers in history. One day, during his reign, a plague broke out in the land of Syria. Umar, and his companions, including great Sahaba like Abdul Rahman Asamov were on their way to visit the region when they received the devastating news. The land was struck by an epidemic, and entering it would mean certain death for many. Umar paused. Should he move forward, trusting in Allah's decree, or should he turn back, avoiding the danger? If everything is written, then does it even matter what choice he makes? As the debate unfolded, a companion remarked, "O Amir al-Mu'minin, are you fleeing from the qadar destiny of Allah?" Umar turned to him and delivered an answer that summarized the entire paradox of free will and divine decree in one simple truth. Yes, we are fleeing from the qadar of Allah to the qadar of Allah. He explained, if you have two fields, one barren and one fertile, and you choose to plant seeds in the fertile land, is that going against Allah's decree? No, you are simply making a choice within His decree. The plague was a test, but their response to it was also part of Allah's will. Later, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf recalled the hadith of the Prophet Latintain. If you hear that a plague is in a land, do not enter it. And if it happens in a land where you are, do not leave it. Bukhari and Muslim, This moment was a perfect illustration of how Qadar destiny and free will are not contradictions, they coexist. Allah has already written the decree, but He has also given us the ability to make choices within it. Umar did not reject Allah's decree, rather he acted with wisdom, knowing that his choices were also part of Allah's divine plan. This is the reality of life. Every decision you make, whether to pray or neglect salah, to follow the truth or ignore it, is part of your free will. But at the same time, Allah's ultimate plan is always unfolding in ways we cannot fully comprehend. So the question is, how will you choose to respond to the choices Allah has placed before you? Will you walk toward His guidance, or will you ignore the signs? The answer is in your hands. One day, a man came to Ali ibn Abi Talib with a question that has troubled minds for centuries. He asked, "O Ali, do we have free will, or is everything predestined by Allah?" Ali smiled and told the man to lift one of his legs. The man easily raised his right foot. Then Ali said, "Now, while keeping your right foot in the air, lift your left foot as well." The man tried but quickly realized it was impossible. Ali then explained, "This is how free will and destiny work together. You have the freedom to lift one foot, but the other remains bound by the decree of Allah. In other words, within Allah's divine plan, we are given a degree of choice. We make decisions, whether to pray, seek knowledge, or do good. But those choices exist within the framework of Allah's greater will." This simple yet profound analogy solves what many see as a contradiction. Allah has written everything, but He has also given us the ability to choose within His decree. So the real question is, how will you use the free will that Allah has granted you? Will you walk toward His guidance, or will you waste the opportunities He has placed before you? At first glance, the concepts of free will and destiny seem to contradict each other. If everything is already written by Allah, then how can we be held accountable for our choices? But the Quran provides a profound resolution, one that requires deeper reflection. Allah says in the Quran, "Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves." Surah 13:11, this verse makes it clear. We have the power to make choices, to seek change, and to act. Our decisions matter. But at the same time, Allah also says, "And no disaster strikes upon the earth or among yourselves except that it is in a register before we bring it into being. Indeed, that for Allah is easy." Surah Al-Hadid 57:22. This verse emphasizes that everything that happens has already been recorded in divine knowledge. So, how do we reconcile these two? The Quran teaches that while Allah's knowledge is absolute and encompasses all things, past, present, and future, He has given us the power to choose our actions. He already knows what path we will take, but He does not force us to take it. His decree includes our choices, our efforts, and our struggles. Think of it this way. A teacher might predict which student will pass an exam based on their dedication, but that student still has to study and take the test. The teacher's knowledge does not remove the student's responsibility. Similarly, Allah's knowledge of our fate does not take away our free will. It only confirms that He is all-knowing. This is the deeper truth of the Quran. There is no contradiction, only a perspective that requires wisdom to understand. The real question is, now that you know this, how will you choose to live your life? Imagine life as a massive chessboard. Every move you make shapes your destiny, yet the outcome is already known by the one who created the game. Does that mean your choices don't matter? Absolutely not. Allah has given us the ability to think, plan, and make decisions, just like a player in a game. But here's the key difference. Allah is not just a passive observer. He's the master of the game, the one who knows all possible moves before they even happen. Think about it. A skilled chess player can predict how a match will unfold based on strategy and logic. But the actual moves? They are made by the players. In the same way, Allah's infinite knowledge doesn't take away our free will. It simply means that no choice we make is hidden from Him. The Quran beautifully clarifies this balance and say, "The truth is from your Lord, so whoever wills let him believe, and whoever wills let him disbelieve." Surah Al-Kahf 18:29. This verse proves that we have free will. But at the same time, Allah also says, "And you do not will except that Allah wills." Indeed, Allah is ever knowing and wise. Surah Al-Insan 76:30. So, do we control our lives, or is everything already written? The answer is both. We move our pieces, but the board, the rules, and the final outcome all belong to Allah. Some people struggle with this concept because they think of destiny as chains that bind them. But in reality, it is the opposite. Destiny is the road, and free will is the vehicle. We choose which turns to take, but the map was always known to the one who designed it. The real question is, will you play your game wisely? Many people, even Muslims, sometimes come across verses in the Quran that seem to say different things. One verse speaks about free will, another about destiny. One verse describes Allah's mercy, another warns of his punishment. Some might ask, isn't this a contradiction? But here's the reality. The Quran is not a book of isolated statements. It is a complete picture. Think of it like this. If you take a single piece of a puzzle and look at it alone, it might not make sense. But when you put it together with the other pieces, the full image becomes clear. Allah tells us that do they not reflect upon the Quran? If it had been from any other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. Surah An-Nisa 4:82. A contradiction means two statements that cannot be true at the same time. But the Quran doesn't do that. Instead, it gives depth. It presents both sides of the truth so that we understand things fully. For example, when the Quran talks about Allah's mercy, it also reminds us of his justice. When it speaks about human free will, it also explains Allah's control over all things. This isn't contradiction. This is balance. The real problem isn't with the Quran. The problem is when people read one verse and ignore the rest. To truly understand, we must look at the whole message, not just a single part. That's when the contradictions disappear and the wisdom of Allah's words becomes clear. After understanding that free will and destiny are not contradictions but part of Allah's perfect design, a deeper question remains. What will you do with the free will that Allah has given you? You may not control everything in life. Where you were born, the tests you face, the circumstances you're placed in, these are written by Allah. But what you choose to do within those circumstances is what truly defines you. Think about the story of Prophet Yusuf. As he was thrown into a well, sold as a slave, falsely accused and imprisoned. None of these events were in his control. But when he was tested, he chose patience, righteousness, and trust in Allah. And because of that, Allah elevated him to a position of honor and power. The Prophet Latafi said, "Every person starts the morning as a vendor of his soul, either freeing it or causing its ruin." Sahih Muslim 223. Your choices determine whether you go closer to Allah or further away. So, the real question is, will you use your free will to obey Allah or follow your desires? Will you turn to Him in hardship or will you complain and give up? Will you seek knowledge, pray, and strive to improve, or will you remain passive and indifferent? The Quran doesn't just give us answers, it challenges us to act upon them. Allah has given you the ability to choose. How will you use it? Now that you understand the balance between free will and destiny, the question is no longer theoretical, it's deeply personal. Every single day, you make choices. And each choice either brings you closer to Allah or pulls you away. When you wake up, do you pray Fajr or hit the snooze button? When someone wrongs you, do you forgive or hold on to anger? When temptation calls, do you resist for the sake of Allah or give in? These small choices may seem insignificant, but they add up. The Quran tells us, whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. Surah Az-Zalzal 99:7-8. That means every decision matters. And on the day of judgment, those choices will determine your eternal outcome. So here's the challenge. Will you live as if your choices don't matter, or will you use your free will to seek Allah's pleasure? This life is short. Your choices echo in eternity. What decision will you make today?